Este es un espacio de Cinestar en Canal M. Canal.
Muy bien, Jorge Santamarina de Reforma.
You're very quiet, man. You're so polite.
Hi, Gerard. With this movie, we must think that Hollywood let in peace finally all the terrorists in Afghanistan, in the Middle East, and now the enemy public number one are the North Koreans.
Actually, no, we're not saying that. I mean, this movie's not about the North Koreans, it's about terrorists. And it's a fictional terrorist group with very complex motivations that are also fictional. So, in that respect, there's a heightened reality to it. Now, if we made a movie about Jamaican terrorists, who cares? Spanish terrorists, doesn't really have the same resonance. So you always make your movie with relevance to what's going on, what are the current political tensions, around the world, what's on our minds, what's going on in here, where are we affected. So we chose North Korea, but in the movie, the North Koreans are just doing what the North Koreans do. They're being aggressive. We're not saying they're necessarily the bad guys. It's the terrorists here. And even in saying that, could say it's a movie about terrorism, but I still feel it's way more a movie about heroism and terrorism. That almost rhymes, heroism and terrorism. In the 80s you made movies about the Russians because the US were standing off against the Russians, and just after World War II it was about the Germans, and now the scope has widened a little because you have Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, you have Korea. But we made a point specifically of not putting this on Korea, but on a particular terrorist faction, which also makes it, I think, a more interesting and scary prospect, because despite what's going on in Korea right now, I think the biggest threat is terrorism rather than rogue states, and that's another reason why I think that the movies had surprising resonance with everybody, because I don't even think that we realized how much it would affect people when they watch it. Even myself watching it with reflection on what has just happened, that we all carry this baggage of recent terrorism, for instance 9/11, and various other attacks. That's all in here. Suddenly when you're watching this movie, it brings up a lot in a lot of people, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's turned out to be a pretty powerful experience. But at least in this, the thing about 9/11 was after it happened, everybody was like, I need to do something. There was nobody to get back at, because they were all dead, they were all in planes. Whereas in this movie, the terrorists are there, it's a hostage situation, which in a way allows for this additional drama, because it's a standoff, they're still there. They have these outrageous demands that will affect the future of America, and it will affect various other countries. And at least here you have a chance to get some justice, which is what I do.
Well, we actually see the White House pretty much destroyed, so could you tell us a little bit about that experience being in the middle of the action, with all these explosions going on?
Yeah, well, we built a White House. We built our own White House in Shreveport, Louisiana. And it was quite funny because they were very excited that they suddenly felt they had the seat of Parliament in Louisiana. And it became a monument very quickly. They'd give directions. Turn left at the White House. And then we blew it up. And then they were like, no, just turn left where the White House used to be before we blew it up. We were filming those scenes, and it was on the heat index, 120 degrees. And the humidity was insane. Just sitting there was miserable. And then every take, and probably over the course of 7 days, we must have done about 400 takes of the various different parts. And because when I arrived at the White House, I'm supposed to have been running down a building and a mile down the street. So for every single take, I have to get down on the ground, push-ups, 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 running on the spot, running on the spot. By the time the take started, I'm like, you know, and sweat pouring off me. I would have to change my shirt, soaking. I'd have to change it roughly once every 10 minutes.
Can I ask how many shirts did you have?
What's that? We had about 18 shirts, and then they would like literally be there blow drying them because we were going through them so fast. And just drinking water. It was like, drinking water constantly. But the scenes are so exciting because, you know, you're right in the middle of this craziness. There's explosions going on all around you. You're firing guns. There's probably about 80 guns being fired. And guns are, even blanks, firing blanks are dangerous. I mean, during this movie, I was hit in the eye by a casing. This happened to me in another movie, Machine Gun Preacher, when I was hit by somebody else's casing and it cut my head, cut me here. The next take happened again, cut me here. And then in this movie, I was firing against a pillar and the casing went, hit me in the eye. And when somebody's firing a gun at you, if you get too close, you can seriously hurt somebody. I almost blew Angelina Jolie's face off once. It's dangerous, but it's fun, it's exciting, the adrenaline, and I really, and everybody was so into it, and I think that when you watch the movie, you really get that feeling. I don't know about you guys, but I know when we screened it around America, and even in Moscow and in Italy, that opening attack is kind of unforgettable because you are so there, and that's what we're wanting to get. That's what Antoine is great at. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it. We're not going to shy away from seeing women are hurt too, or animals are hurt. Just how ugly that thing is. You know, we wanted to make it as visceral and as gritty as possible.
And I also guess that you didn't have that many shots when it comes to destroying the White House, right? The pressure was on you.
Yeah, the pressure was on to get it right. There's nothing worse than when you have a big explosion in a movie. In fact, that happened with our bus. You know, it takes half a day, and you have these safety meetings, and you get everybody around, and you all talk about, okay, you got to stand over there, and stand over there, and stand over there, and of course you as the actor, and then they'll say, Jerry, you just stand right next to the bus. But they put so much preparation. I know, you should get some sleep. I'm bored with myself. And you wait all this time for the and everybody's getting so worked up about it, and then finally it happens. And normally it works, but when we first blew up the bus, we waited like 6-7 hours, and it goes, oh! This little thing comes out of the roof, and it was nothing. And we're all saying, are you kidding me? And it took another 2 days to set that up, to get the explosion properly. Because it's a dangerous business, you know. There's a lot of propane, there's a lot of explosives, and if you get it wrong, people get hurt.
Ok, vámonos a la siguiente pregunta. ¿Es hit de cine en línea?
You want some Red Bull?
Welcome. I want to know how was Warwick's Secret Service? How do you spend your free time during the film?
Working with the Secret Service was maybe my favorite part of this movie, when you really learn how much preparation, how much dedication, how much knowledge these guys have, and what they do on a daily basis. Thousands of them. Not just in America, but here in Mexico, and I mean Mexican. The Secret Service here, and in every country, you realize how much work they do to protect us so that we can do this. And so much of it we don't hear about. And for instance, the two main guys who were training me and I was spending time with to get their headspace, one of them had a deep gash down here, a big gash from here to here, where he was slashed in a fight with a terrorist. The other one was shot in here and almost died. Again, both times engaging terrorists. And I got a lot from listening to them. And by the way, two of the nicest, most mellow, humble souls you could ever meet. So dedicated though. One of them even had the motto of the Secret Service tattooed in his gum, right? But when they start talking about those guys that they fight, and those guys that would hurt the people of their country, or have hurt their colleagues, or have hurt them, or their loved ones, or the particular officials that they serve, you see this, that's when they come alive. And that's when you go, oh my God, I wouldn't want to mess with these guys. They're incredibly tough. And we used, that's what I got. That's the thing that I took. That's what I wanted to take into Mike Banning, was that almost if you're forced to, you become darker than the villain himself. And I love that notion. And we spent a lot of time gleaning information from them as well about how to set up this initial attack. And then also, what is protocol? What happens in the crisis room? What happens in the White House when you go in there? What do you do? How do you keep an audience fascinated? Because it's a really interesting process. You go in, you check on everything, you know, what's surveillance, what's going on with the air vents, how do you establish outside lines of communication, how do you assess the enemy capability, how do you get ammo, and then how do you start forming a plan? All of these things that are actually really cool to get involved with and know what's the purpose of this, what's counterterrorism, you know, the cat and mouse game. So in that, and then in free time, I produced the movie as well, so we were always, you're working as a producer, and then you're doing dialect sessions, and then you're training at the gym, and then you're at the chiropractor for your injuries, and then you're training with all the stunt guys, and we spent a lot of time developing the script. I mean, I would be calling the director at 2 in the morning, going, Antoine, wake up, I've got a great idea, check this out. Okay, with this, blah, blah. He's like, dude, what? Really? And then, after all that, you gotta go and actually perform. So there was always that, Antoine had this thing for me, which was, bad intentions, Jerry, which would always just click me back into playing Mike Banning. But what I did, I stayed out on a lake, beautiful lake, and sometimes we had a little boat, and we'd go out in the boat, and sometimes we would work out there, which developed the script, or I would just go out there and sit and work, or chill. It's amazing. I gotta tell you, whenever I think of this lake, I'm like, it's so beautiful. And we had a tree, this is totally irrelevant to the movie by the way, but we had a tree in our garden, and while I was there, it was struck twice by lightning. Both times we were there, and it was hairy as fuck. It's crazy. Burned for a day. First time it burned for 24 hours until we had to get somebody to come put it out. Just for your general information.
Shall we send Antoine some Red Bull because of your calls, your morning calls?
What's that?
Shall we send Antoine Red Bull? He might need it.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, by the way, that's something I'd love to just talk about for a second. Is the one, Antoine Fuqua, the most amazing director. You know, directed Training Day. There was nobody better for this. And actually, when I got the script, I was already working with him on another couple of projects, and this suddenly was here, and I thought, oh my God, this is Antoine written all over it. And I took it to him and we said, you know what, let's go, let's just dive in right now. And I was on the phone with him yesterday and we were like, okay man, I've got another one for you. And he's like, I've got one for you. And we just want to do everything together right now. It's great to work with a director when you're making a movie that has a lot of action. One, the guy was a Golden Gloves boxer. He's so tough and yet he's so sensitive. And he is somebody, if you ever want to talk about a hero's journey, my favorite movie of all time is Apocalypse Now, and it's his favorite movie too. And that is the absolute darkest journey of a hero into his own mind and down that river into the unknown territory of ourselves. And yet he's so incredible with actors. And we managed to get this. You know, for me as well, getting Antoine on board, I knew and be able to get the likes of Aaron Eckhart, and Morgan Freeman followed, and Melissa Leo. So we made an action movie, but we made an action movie with 2 Oscar winners, 2 Oscar-nominated actors, and then on top of that, you have Dylan McDermott, Radha Mitchell, you have Ashley Judd, Rick Hume. We just amassed this formidable cast. And what that really helped us to do was to make those roles incredibly human and incredibly believable. Because I sometimes wonder, is it an audience watching the movie? Are they believing it's happening, or is it important that they see the people in the movie believing that it's happening? And if you have such incredible actors, then you're there. And I really thought they did such an incredible job in this movie. They took it, you know, it's an action movie, but to me it transcends that and it becomes something way more meaningful and resonant and actually emotional. Sorry for the long answer.
Great. Vámonos, creo que será
It's the Red Bull.
la última pregunta, que es de Abraham López, univision.com.
Hola, Gerard.
Hola.
¿Qué cualidades crees que debe tener un presidente hoy en día para que la gente que está a su alrededor quiera protegerlo de la manera que sucede en la película?
I'm not quite understanding that question. Which are the characteristics of the...
What do you think it takes for... That's right? Yeah. What do you think it takes for a president, or what does it take for people to actually care about a president as much as they care about the president in this movie? Which are the features that a president needs to have so people actually love him that much?
That's an interesting question, because, you know, what we tried to do was we give our president, not make him a pushover in any way. We wanted to make this guy, one, show that he was a fighter. We put a boxing scene in there at the beginning. You know, we wanted to show a guy who had some balls, who was fit, who was athletic, and yet who was a decent man with integrity. Somebody that you got to know. You saw the tragedy in his life. You saw that he really is trying to deal with his son, and you see that he's very fair in politics. Because we didn't want to create a situation there where you're muddying up, you know, his personal beliefs. We wanted to create, you know, a modern, young, kind of vital politician. But what I do believe, and it's interesting because, to me, what's more important than what are the attributes that your president needs for you to care about him? In some ways isn't important, I think, because he's your president. And I think that, you know, you as Mexicans, you grow up, from the day you're born, you hear about your institutions and your president and those posts. Whether you love or hate that person, they're your president. They serve you, they protect you. It's the same in Britain. It's the same, you know, whether people agree with whether they love or hate Obama. Nobody wants to see Obama with a gun to his head, or in this situation, nobody wants to see you know, when John F. Kennedy died, not everybody agreed with Kennedy's politics, but when he was shot, it was awful for everybody. It was a terrible, terrible day. So in that respect, I wonder, and tell you something else. I was in South Africa, and I walked into a radio station. And as I walked in, the television was on, and it said, Margaret Thatcher died of stroke. Now, I'm from Scotland. I don't know if you guys know any of the history of what happened when Margaret Thatcher was in power, but the Scots hated her. I hated her. It's what she did to Scotland. And yet, when I saw this, I was overcome with emotion, because I have so much emotional attachment to that, and at the same time I can appreciate she was a great woman. So that's what that leads me to another point, which is why I think this movie touches at something very deep. And people might say, well, it's about America. it is about America, but it could just as easily be about Mexico. It could just as easily be about the 7/7 bombings in London. It could be about an attack in France, Spain, whatever. The fact is, it's an attack on our institutions by terrorists, by people who would do us harm. And, you know, yeah, and just that, I think that it's about our freedom. It's about the fragility of our freedom, and I think that we have a lot of attachment to those posts, whether you like the person or not. Very few people would say, "Yeah, president died." I hope.
I think so too. Muchas gracias a todos ustedes por habernos acompañado, Gerard. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Apparently, especially. Muchas gracias.
Este es un espacio de Cinestar en Canal M.
Canal M.